John's going to pick it up.
Chris has got the tie on today.
Oh, there you go. I was just looking at it.
I thought we would start this meeting with a little thematic music for May 4th. So I hope you enjoyed that interlude. Prelude? Would it have been prelude? I'm sorry, I didn't play the Dead March. And I did promise some photos of my son when he was 3 wearing Darth Vader costume, and I forgot to look those up, but maybe another day. I call to order the meeting. We are not going to do the motion until later, but first of all, let me just say this. I will call to order the Personal Policy Curriculum Committee meeting, which was duly noticed on May 1st, 2026 through posting and notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin 19.84. Notice is hereby given that school board members who are not members of this committee may attend this meeting so as to constitute a quorum of the Board of Education. Any such board member attendance will be for information gathering only and will not result in decision making by the Board of Education at the committee meeting. I will read you my safety message for today. And we are waiting for another board commissioner, FYI, so that we can maintain quorum, and she is not here yet. So hopefully that will happen soon. I just want to share that mental health is a critical physical safety, especially in high stress, high risk environments, and Mental Health Awareness Month is recognized every May. And it encourages open dialogue, education, and support for mental health well-being. I don't think we always talk about that with our safety messages, so I thought it was really a nice time to consider that for this month. Here are some things to consider. Stress management, discuss practical techniques like mindfulness, deep breathing, time management. I think in the world of education, these are always on our minds, but it's great to include them in, the common conversation. Breaking the stigma, create a culture where it's okay to talk about mental health without fear of judgment. Access to resources, share contact information for employee assistant programs, hotlines, or local counselors. And then, of course, training supervisors. Make sure to equip leaders with tools to recognize signs of burnout, depression, or substance abuse. By integrating mental health into your safety talks, you promote a holistic approach to worker wellness and help build a resilient workforce, and I think that's super important. I also found these quotes, which I thought were very nice. All in together, safety is a shared responsibility requiring active engagement and planning from all team members. And also be proactive, not reactive. Identify potential hazards before they cause incidents, particularly focusing on high energy activities. So now I need a motion to adopt the May 4th, 2026 agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. That motion passes unanimously. All right, everyone. We will move to the challenge program updates by Veronica McMahon. Welcome. We want you to microwave.
My name's Veronica McMahon, and I'm going to talk to you about TAG and challenge tonight. A lot of people don't understand the difference, so I'm going to talk about both of those. TAG stands for Talented and Gifted Program, and I want to talk to you a little bit about how I became involved in this. I was hired a little over 30 years ago, and when I first was hired, I had taken some graduate classes at UW-Whitewater in gifted education. So Ruth Robinson, who was the gifted coordinator at the time, sent me and a couple other teachers to Virginia to study under Carol Ann Tomlinson, who is a national gifted teacher who specializes in differentiation. And from there, my interest just really grew. Both my own children went through the challenge program, so I really can see this as both a parent and as an educator. I was also involved in when the program split into two, and we had two third grade. I was the one who presented to the board many years ago for that. The first slide is talking about the different TAG areas. Students can be identified in many different areas. It can be a specific academic area, such as math, language arts, reading, science, or other. It can be intellectual, which means they are overall gifted and talented in all areas. It could be in the artistic performing arts, singing, dancing, or the visual arts, drawing, painting, for example, creative thinking, or leadership. So we have a process. If a parent or a teacher thinks that a student is identified, they bring this to the TAG advocate. And I'll be talking about that on the next slide. The TAG advocate would then look for different areas that show this, such as test scores, or if it's the performing arts, it might be that they were in competitions, or anything like that. It could be a portfolio if it was artistic. And they would then fill this out on NextPath, and I would look over the data, and once it is approved, if they qualify, then I put it in Infinite Campus, so that's marked, and the parents or anyone who looks in Infinite Campus can see that there's a little flag that says that they are gifted and talented. And then I send a letter home to the parents and a letter to the school to go in the CUME file. So we have lots of different opportunities right within the schools. Each school has a TAG advocate. There's one per school at the elementary. In the middle school, we have one per grade level. And then at the high school, it's one. Because once you get to high school, there are so many opportunities, but most of them are through clubs and after-school things. There's all the musicals and math clubs and just wonderful opportunities. So you may want to look later. I have a list that the teachers made. It's under TAG Advocates member list that you can click on. But these opportunities can range from differentiation in the classroom, where the teacher is really taking a lesson and they're changing it to meet different student needs. That could be the product. Maybe some students are doing something written. Another may be writing a poem or writing a song. It could be such as using most difficult first, like in math. That's a strategy I really like. If a student's really mastered something, they don't need to do 100 problems to show you they understand it. Choose the 10 most difficult, and if they get those correct, then they're excused from doing the rest. Coming up with higher level thinking, all of those wonderful things. And then on that link, it will show you just a lot of after-school clubs and contests and things. What we have asked is that every school offer at least one in the area of language arts and at least one in the area of math, and we're building upon that, trying to make it a little more consistent between the schools, that not that they all offer the exact same thing, but that they are all getting lots of opportunities. So this is my second year now as TAG coordinator. I'm seeing that schools are adding a lot of things to their list and providing a lot more opportunities. One example of that was the Math 24 competition that we had just last week, and it was held in the Arise Lab because that was convenient for me. But we bused kids from 6 schools for 4th grade, and 9 schools participated in the 5th grade. And my goal is to have all 12 schools compete. So Math 24 is a fun game where the students take the numbers on the card. They can use addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division to come up with the number 24. So it really teaches the students to look for patterns. They have to really think very quickly. It was amazing. You put the card down and the judge would remove their hand, and it would be a fight who could say it. It was just so quick. They were really impressive. So that's just one of the opportunities that schools could choose to participate in. We also have the challenge program. So there's a difference between TAG and challenge. TAG means you're identified in one area or intellectually in all the areas. The challenge program is something different. That is our magnet program where students have been identified intellectual and they are accelerated a full year in both reading and in math. And then they are enriched in science and in social studies. Right now, that program is at Roosevelt for grades 3 through 5, and then in the middle school, we have it at Edison and at Marshall. And I'm going to be talking about how they qualify for that in just a little bit. Most students are in the entire challenge program. If there are openings after those who qualify, then some students may qualify for just the reading part or just the math part. We also have DEPs. You've heard of IEPs for students with special needs. The DEP is for students with needs on the other end, on the high end. So it's very much like an IEP, but written for students with high capabilities. These are for the students who the differentiation in the classroom is still not enough. They need more than that. We're looking for students who are at the 95th percentile and higher for this. And we're not looking at just one data point. That wouldn't be very fair. We always try to triangulate and look at least 3 data points. So we want them to be consistently scoring at that high level and really having needs that we need to meet. They might need individualized instruction. They might need to be grade accelerated for a subject. If we're looking at just one subject, we can do this through the DEP. The process for this is if a teacher or a parent notices that their student is consistently scoring at this 95th percentile, they could bring that to the TAG advocate's attention. The TAG advocate would call me and we would gather data and then we would set up a DEP meeting just like you'd have an IEP meeting. That would involve the TAG advocate, the teachers, the parents, the student, and we would sit down and look at all the evidence and look at the needs and find out how we can best meet their needs and develop a plan. I type up a plan and then that plan goes to the parents and it also goes in the CUME file. We also have an electronic copy of that gets stored and passed on from year to year so that as a student goes to the next level of school, that plan still continues to go with them. Now, for the challenge program, we do district-wide screening in 2nd grade and in 5th grade with the COGAT. The COGAT is a test. It's not like the typical test. It's more like puzzles and looking for analogies and creative thinking. So once this screening is done at the 2nd and then again at the 5th grade level, we look at those scores. And we're looking for kids, for the first part of the screening, I'm really looking at about 90 and above just to make sure we're not missing kids. Then I'm also looking at kids that are 90 above in reading and also in math on those standardized scores. We're looking at the iReady scores and we're looking at forward scores as the kids get older and take forward. And then I create a big big sheet and we put down all those scores. And we're really looking for kids that are in the 95th percentile in all those areas preferably. It's really important for math and reading because they're going to be grade accelerated a full grade. In the past, we have had a few kids who have had to be removed from the program or have chosen to be removed from the program because they're really struggling. That's not good for their self-esteem. So we want to make sure that these kids are a good fit and that this is the best way to program for them. So once we compile the list of those students, we then send out invitations. Of course, it's always the parents' final say. We would love to have all those students attend this program. I honestly think this is the best fit for them. I loved having my students in it, and I felt that they gained a lot from it. Some students, though, may choose not to because they don't want to be separated from their friends. Perhaps they have to go across town to another school. So we understand that each family needs to make the choice that is best for them. And then students who enter in 5th grade, because if they enter in 2nd grade, or at the end of 2nd grade, going into 3rd, we have a chance to slowly accelerate them. But if they're starting in 5th grade, they're gonna miss a whole year as they enter into Edison or Marshall. So we have a summer school math program that kind of compacts that 1 year and gives them the chance to learn those math skills and helps them be more successful when they reach the middle school math program. So students are typically joining the challenge program in 3rd grade and 6th grade. However, there's exceptions. When we have openings in the program, we're always looking and screening. I'll have TAG advocates come to me and say, you know, I have a student who's just really blossomed. They didn't qualify a couple years ago, but I think they're going to qualify now. And we take a look at them again, and we can add students at any year in the program as long as there are openings at that school. And now I'd like to give you a chance to ask me questions either about TAG or challenge.
Can you explain to me when you said they miss a year going 5th to 6th? What did you mean by that? I don't-
They're accelerated, so they're skipping a year. So they're going from 5th grade math to 7th grade. But if they started in 3rd grade, then they've already taken 6th grade before they go. Yes, of course.
Do you do the same for English for those kids, like books that they've read in the challenge program earlier? Are they encouraged with a reading list or anything like that to kind of catch up so that they're all on the same page?
Well, there's different stories in each one, so a reading is a much easier subject to be able to do it, because reading, it really is very cyclical, and so they're not missing as much, they're just doing it at a more enriched level. But it is a year ahead. But the skills repeat year to year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious. For reference points, I guess, when you get to high school and you missed a year, or, if you hadn't read Romeo and Juliet and you're in junior year, you would need to, that was what I was wondering. But they're a little low, they don't read quite that intensely yet, I'd assume,
Right.
so. My other question is, about what percentage of our student population is in the challenge program? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, usually we're looking at the top 5%. It should be, above the 95th percentile. But that's really looking at national norms. So, and then I would have to look that up. But it would be a different question if you're asking what percent qualify and if you're asking what percent accept too.
You have a fair amount that don't accept.
We have a good handful every year that don't want to leave their friends, or they're more interested in their sport team. They want to stay with that group of friends. It's.
I'm sorry, I have a lot of questions.
Oh, no.
The next one is, do you track them into high school? I mean, because then in high school, they kind of peel off into just normal tracks in high school, right? So
Right.
do you?
Once they get to high school, of course, they're going to be a year ahead in math and language, but the other courses, it's anything they would like to take.
kind of, I'm just curious, like, do we have data on these kids and how
Yes.
they end up in their senior year or where they go from there? Just kind of,
We're starting to look more at that. Allison DeGraff, I know, did a sheet on that for the Craig students last year, and we're starting to do more of that.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that the individuals who are choosing the challenge program, we don't provide busing for if they, and so that might be a reason transportation could be an issue, especially if it's not close. Thankfully, Roosevelt is in the middle of our community, so that probably is a little more helpful.
And Stacy, we are going to actually be calling any of the parents of the ones in second grade going into third who did not accept, and we're going to give them a short survey and ask the reason so that we can look at it for next year and see if there's anything that we can do to close barriers.
I think that's wonderful because that would be a sad barrier for a student if that, was what was holding them back. And I know also sometimes families feel like, well, if there's siblings who are also attending that elementary school, then the choice is, do we have kids at two different schools, which some families do. But then sometimes maybe they would choose to have the other sibling attend Roosevelt as well, correct?
At Roosevelt, they can choose to bring their other siblings to the school with them if they qualify. And
Is there-
that's newer, and I really liked that.
Yeah, which I think is nice because it is challenging if you are having multiple pickups, let's say 3, and you have to get to a middle school and 2 elementary schools. But of course, the schools would work with you and be very understanding about making sure that we are accommodating for those. But I mean, those are challenges that peers of mine face as they're, maybe one child qualified for the challenge program and then a sibling didn't qualify, but it's nice to know that there are options that we have available. So thank you. It's always really great to hear about this offering, and Janesville's unique because not all school districts have this specialty program. So I'm grateful that we do have it.
sorry. If they were offered it in going into third grade and then they passed, they have to test in again? You keep track of
Right.
those kids and kind of offer again going into middle school?
We keep track of them and see what their scores are, and the majority of them still have high scores, but they do need to have those high scores yet, because if a student were to fall off, say, in math, we don't want to put them a year ahead when they wouldn't be successful. But we definitely look at all those students and check to see if they qualify.
I was just gonna add too with, parents trying to make that decision, sometimes it is transportation or activities they're involved in, and a lot of times, when I was a principal too, I would have parents ask to meet with me because sometimes a lot of families feel very well connected to their elementary school and their siblings there, so, it'd be a conversation of here's what we can offer if you remain in the building as, Veronica shared, there can be enrichment groups, there can be differentiation, and what the challenge offers is acceleration every day in each subject area, so you kind of have to decide what is best for the needs of your family and your child. So, we try to help respond to parents and ask them those questions as well. And so, Commissioner Richardson, too, in response to your question about the data, so yes, what I've started to do a little bit of tracking is those students that went into the challenge program and didn't go into the challenge program, where are they, like, on their ACT scores? Yeah. So what's that, just to kind of see what are the opportunities in the challenge program, and when students are accelerated for multiple years, or students who remained in their school, but then when they enter high school, there's activities, but a lot of them go into the AP tracks for that enrichment as well too. So just kind of to gather data and give parents feedback as well. So that's great, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing about your program. And of course, if we have questions, we know where we can direct them.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
All right, everyone, moving on to 1.5 work-based learning updates with Chris Benwald, Chris Madke, and Amy Turner. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Is it Thurner?
If you wanna go ahead.
I was just gonna start out my slides, but if you wanna start me out, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, an introduction would be nice. Is it, and then we know, because I feel like I mispronounced your name, Thurner.
Turner, yes.
But an introduction would be great.
That'd be great. I'll give you an introduction. So we have fortunately, we have some experts here to talk about work-based learning instead of you having to listen to me about it. While I'm a big proponent of work-based learning, I think the three of them, Amy Thurner, who's our work-based learning liaison, who's done a lot of work. We hired Amy in January. I worked with her for about 8 days and then went on a leave of absence, and I came back and I said, how'd it go? She had done a lot of work since then. Chris Madke, you know, as our career and technical education coordinator, and then they brought a ringer that I didn't know they were going to bring in, Greg Phillips, who has been doing a version of work-based learning pretty much his entire life. Greg retired for about 2.5 minutes from Blackhawk Technical College, and then Forward Janesville asked if he would lead their work-based development work. So they're going to talk about some of the things they've been doing in the community for work-based learning, and we'll be able to answer questions galore.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so like Chris said, I've been here about 4 months, and it's been a whirlwind of 4 months. We've had a lot of activity in work-based learning, so I'm excited to show you what we've been working on. So first up is the Youth Apprenticeship Program. I inherited the Youth Apprenticeship Program, so these are still students that I'm trying to meet and get to know. There are currently 64 youth apprentice throughout all of the schools. We did have 2 terminations since I've been on board, and that was sort of cleanup from looking through some of the 64 YAs. We did set a goal for next school year for 80 youth apprenticeships. I already have 50 students interested, and we'll talk about the job fair in a minute. And we have 12 returning level 2 students, so juniors who are going to be seniors who are interested in returning as senior youth apprenticeships. As part of the Youth Apprenticeship Program, I had the privilege of attending my first signing day with Myron Construction. So a student with Rock River Charter signed on for Myron Construction, so that was sort of my first big win in the position. That was really fun to go to. And then new this year, I can't take the credit for the idea because it was Chris's idea, but we did YA senior banners. So we were thinking that why don't these YAs get credit for like sports and things like that. So there are samples of it up there, but I did bring one. I did want to show it off because I think it's so cool.
Tall enough to show that off.
Thanks for pointing it out, Greg. So that is I already dropped Craig's off, but this is an example of the Parker, and then we had Arise and Rock U participate in the program. So we're going to continue. Can I give this to you? We will continue this for next year. What I want to do is do the YA senior banners though next year in January or December. That way we can catch the early graduates because we had a few miss out on that. As the new work-based learning liaison, I've also begun to make regular classroom visits in order to promote the youth apprenticeship program. As well as Craftsman, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that includes going into the classes at Parker, Craig, and all 3 charters. Just last week, we had the Youth Apprenticeship Job Fair at the Rock County Job Center. It was with Parker, Craig, Rock University, Rock River, and Arise. They all came, and 48 students participated. Students were required to bring a resume and to have an elevator pitch ready. I believe that this was new this year. And we do trainings during ACPs. So we had Mr. Kane over at Craig do his, and I did the ones over at Parker, and then I went to the other 3 schools to do some training on what could they expect at this YA job fair. We did have 20 businesses in attendance, And we have had two, now I can say two, YAs already secure jobs from the event. Next up is Craftsman with Character. I'm sure you all know about this program. We did have to pause the program in fall of 2025. This was prior to me, but did start it back up again in the spring of 2025. We currently have 12 Craig High School students going through the program. Our current rotation for Craftsman with Character is J.P. Cullen, United Alloy, Prent, Hesser Toyota, Boucher Automotive Group, Boucher Automotive Group, and Blaine Supply. We have our big end of year celebration coming up on May 18th at Blaine Supply, where we'll be celebrating these 12 Craig students. They're sophomores, juniors, and seniors in this program for this go around. And I'm already beginning fall recruitment, like I stated, and I am visiting classes at Parker and the charters for that, because it is Parker's turn now. And we save seats for the charters as well. Also beginning business recruitment, and we'll talk a little bit. Greg and I are working together on that, so I'll bring him in a minute to talk to you. Again, new to me is the visiting classrooms. So we've begun visiting classrooms for this as well. So been very busy in my 4 months going to all 5 schools. I'm not going to read what the students said, but these are a couple things that our current students said about being in the program. They just love it. Snacks are very important, by the way, very important. Chris took me under his wing for my first spring job fair at Parker High School. We had 50 plus tables. Lots of employers, lots of different opportunities for the students, military recruiters, post-secondary institutions, financial institutions, a whole array of businesses attended the Parker High School Job Fair. 10th, 11th, and 12th graders attended that, and they did as well have resumes and elevator pitches ready to go. So next up, side one of my position is, of course, the education and the student side. Side two is the business community. So I come from a background with the Greater Beloit Chamber of Commerce. So I had some business connections already from my role, but I've been working hard, and I kind of had to spend the first 2 months really digging into education. But now I'm able to start doing business visits. So when I go with Greg a lot, so I'll bring him up in a minute. But I listed for you the tours that I've been able to secure since I've been here, and a lot of success talking to these companies about these initiatives that we have at the School District of Janesville. Along with company opportunities come community and school partnerships. So I've been able to either start or grow our spot with some of these organizations. And so I'm very active in the ones that we've listed below. Greg will be up in a minute, but I wanted to just go through a couple of these because I'm very proud about how I've been able to bring to this role that collaboration with some of these community entities. So BTC, I've joined steering committees, I've attended job fairs, and I've had visits with the staff. UW Rock County Economic Development, I've had a meeting with James Otterstein. Career Tech in Beloit, I attend their monthly meetings? Yeah, their monthly meetings. The SMA, I'm an active partner in the SMA now. The Southwest Wisconsin Workforce Development Board, of course, they have very active with the youth apprenticeships, so I work very closely with them. And then something new that I had decided to do was to start attending the student services meetings. There was a committee prior to me that just brought people together in one room, and I talked to Chris about it, and I thought that it was more important for me to visit those meetings. So I've been meeting with all the counselors at Parker and Craig, and then I make regular visits at all 3 charters. Fridays are typically my days to go and visit with the charters, and I work very closely with their staff so far. So I'm really proud about that because, man, those counselors, they're the way into some of these work-based initiatives, that's for sure. And they didn't always know what was going on, and I don't think that everybody was on the same page. So now we're getting there, and so I'm attending those meetings. And then, of course, other key staff connections in the AP office have been really important to me as well. So now I'm going to bring up Greg.
One before you.
I wanted Greg to come up and just talk about how he feels kind of this newfound relationship between the school district and for Janesville is going, and kind of his 2 cents on some of these work-based learning initiatives in the community.
Yeah, thank you, Amy, and I appreciate you letting me sneak into the meeting and address everybody, but I think what's going on right now is fantastic. Challenge after challenge after challenge, and this has been going on for some time. Everybody knows about, lower birth rates. We're going to be affected by enrollment falls. This spreads out through the community, and it is a community challenge. The community needs to take a direct role in helping school districts, and that's not just Janesville, it's everywhere, right? We're going to be facing challenges here that everybody's got, but we're going to need help with. And so I think it's vitally important, and I wasn't really sure where this role was going to go when Shar brought me on, because when you start talking about workforce development, it's one of those buzzwords. It's like engineering. Well, are you a railroad engineer? Are you an electrical engineer? What are you? For me, I think I've boiled it down to we have community challenges that are going to require community involvement to solve. Everything from parents all the way through business owners. Everybody's got to take an active role. You can't dump it off on the school district. You can't just dump it off on parents. You can't just dump it off on childcare. It's going to be everybody. And so the collaboration that we have and the expansions that we're doing, involving the different groups, the different programs, Craftsman with Character, YA, we're talking about some other construction avenues and possibly healthcare. Chris will probably address those. I'm happy to be, because of my background and my connection to a lot of industry and business, anything I can do to connect Amy. It's really cool because I can help connect her with people and businesses in the community, and then I can go on and find another one, and she takes it from there. This needs to work whether an individual is there or not. It has to become an ecosystem that drives itself, and I think we're on the right track to get there, so. Any questions for me?
Greg, I met you recently. Do you remember meeting me?
I do, it was at a
Okay,
PA 5.
It was, and it's so nice to see you again.
Yes, you too.
All right, good afternoon. To address the healthcare piece, so we talked about the desire to create a healthcare focused version of Craftsman, and we've run into a few roadblocks. I'm still hopeful, but that one we are putting a pause on for right now. But we did expand our relationship and opportunities through Mercy, through CNA and EMT courses, so that's a win in that area. So I'll address some of the CTE portion of the presentation because it does very much tie into work-based learning. So career technical student organizations are a big part of what our students can participate in as they go through our program. So you can kind of see a run through of all the different departments that I support and the associated career and tech ed student organization that exists. So everything from FFA to FBLA, we continue to have a lot of students interested in robotics and programming. We've had some big wins, and for those of you who, looking ahead, we're going to be recognizing some of our CTE qualifiers who made some big gains and placed either at the state or even going into the national level when it comes to their competitions. We'll do that on the 12th at that meeting. But we've had a lot of great engagement from our students in participating, and it definitely ties into how work-based learning impacts the growth and the pathway for these students. Student House Build, a perennial wonderful project that our students get to participate. This year we had 22 students, 11 from Craig, 11 from Parker. The open house celebration, if you've not been made aware, is occurring on May 20th, so that's not too far away. And that address is at 772 Waveland Drive. So every year those houses get more and more impressive. So I know that I think they've been successful in selling all of them thus far, and they get more and more elaborate, and just a testimony to the work that Mr. Cruiser and the students do. The Janesville Business Academy continues to flourish this year with Mr. Zimmerman and Mr. Elson receiving the Forward Janesville Educators of the Year. That's certainly a feather in the cap for that program. There's 29 participants that were part of the JBA this year, 21 from Craig, 8 from Parker. With the departure of Mr. Zimmerman, that will certainly change the face of that program, but I think Mr. Wick will be stepping in and he'll do a wonderful job as well. And I think they've got strong participation lined up for next year. But a lot of work, I'm sure you're all familiar with the JBA, but the work they do with programming and projects for real businesses really gives students a taste of what it's like to be in the workforce. The Education Academy, that one we're building. So previously we had students that were doing more of the early childhood route, and we've shifted that to be more of a grow your own for straight education. So we've had 12 participants for that, 4 from Craig, 8 from Parker. Those students get TC or transcripted credit coursework through Blackhawk, and those courses then are able to be transferred over to UW-Whitewater upon further work within the program. So a great way to get our students involved. And the goal next year is for them to be actually in elementary schools and getting more hands-on experience working with kids. And then for other non-YA, some of the other work-based learning possibilities, we do still offer local cooperative learning programs where perhaps a student, they don't have the ability within their schedule to do a full YA, but they can still do work-based learning. So we have 47 students in total who did co-op programs this year, ranging from, it runs the gamut of the similar pathways, but it might just be they didn't have the ability to take the number of hours to do those jobs. And then we also have internships, which in many cases are students who are doing non-paid activities. Last but not least, we always try to grow the number of industry-recognized credentials, so certifications that our students can earn. From 24-25, this is from the WISE data. So we had students who take, generally this is for the CNA coursework, so they go to Blackhawk and they take the CNA program. We had 29 students who qualified and earned their diploma for CNA. We had 248 students overall who earned a state-approved business and industry credential, so that could be through Snap-on, Microsoft, OSHA, Intuit, things like that. And then we also offer a number of non-state recognized, but through the DPI employability skills, we had 42 students who earned that credential. And then it's kind of hiding on the bottom, whatever the number was. Yes, so we did have every year. Perfect, yeah. So we did have, it does track the number of graduates, and that's submitted every year to the DPI. So we had 141, was it? Students who had earned some sort of recognized credential that the state identified. So that number has exponentially grown over the last few years. So I'm really pleased with that movement. Any questions on any of those pieces?
I have a question. I am aware that since the Chris's time here, our work-based learning opportunities have just skyrocketed. Yes? I mean, I think that we just really need to recognize that. Amy and Greg, thank you so much for, Amy, you're a dynamo. The stuff that you've accomplished is just outstanding.
My old body feels it.
Thank you for being here. What are our, I remember Forward Janesville several years ago, there was some talk about where we were in percent or numbers compared to other districts, and we were kind of low with our involvement. Where are we now? Because we have to have just risen so much, and you may not know those exact numbers, but I feel it having been on the board and kind of seeing that and knowing that. I didn't really know at the time that we were slacking until someone came and put a magnifying glass on it, and then you really realize, holy cow, other areas were doing a lot of work that we just weren't there yet, and we're there now.
I would say that I know from one of the Carl Perkins grant that I oversee, one of the pieces that they look at is work-based learning participation. And I want to say one of my first years that I took that on, we were 8-9% of our students that were, and we're over 20% now. So we're making great progress for sure.
Well, I think back to a year ago, we had Craftsman with Character came, and there was a student, and I remember the student's name, and it just made, Michelle, you probably remember this, it made such an impression because, I mean, he just said it turned his involvement in Craftsmen with Character turned his life around. And he went from not wanting to be involved with school to getting up at 5 a.m. to show up for his masonry work that he was doing. And he was so proud of that he was a part of the Woodman's Convention Center. And I think that the work of all of this is literally changing people's lives. And that's really something to celebrate. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, well, thanks all for being here. We love to hear about this great report. And, you know, we'll get there with the health services. But, you know, you can only do so much. You can't force things that aren't, you know, but I appreciate the effort. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get at some point.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Before I'm retired.
Thank you.
In time, when they start to see things happening, I say it's like popcorn, right? Once a few kernels pop, it starts to take.
Yeah. Crossing fingers. Thank you all. All right, moving on to 1.66 athletic handbook updates. Jim McClowery, welcome.
Good afternoon. I apologize if I seem distracted. One of my sons is coaching college baseball down in Texas, and the goal is always in athletics is you want to play in the last day of your tournament. You want to be one of those teams, and so they were a team that was on the brink of elimination. They won 4 in a row to play today, only to lose to Concordia of Fort Worth or something like that, 10-5. So I was watching a little bit of that. So, but anyways, good stuff. But thank you for the opportunity today. So my mission today is to just present our updated athletic and activities code book. And I just want to remind folks just a few things here, just briefly. Probably should start with this. We didn't have any large changes this year. It was just a few dates. And just want to remind folks that we did a wholesale dive into our athletic code of conduct and activities code of conduct 3 years ago. So we're actually finishing year 3. And again, just wanted to share again, why did we dive into it? There hadn't been any adjustments made to it for about 7 years, and really a 12-month period, 24-month period is long enough to wait to make adjustments here. But just to share again a few things with you, our athletic department is comprised of our 3 middle school athletic directors who are very part-time but do a full-time job, our 2 high school athletic and activities directors who do an amazing job, and we are fortunate to have 3 administrative assistants that help us serve the hundreds and hundreds of kids across 4 buildings, plus with co-ops in our off-campus schools as well. Part of our process is we do we meet regularly and intentionally with benchmarks of things we're trying to accomplish at different parts of the year. One of the things that we've been intentional about the last 4 school years is to have a data retreat, and that includes all 6 folks who are on the administrative team for athletics, and we bring in multiple people in this building in different departments to help us to again strategically plan, make sure we're using best practices. So anyways, this book is part of our data retreat. We're in January. We have a semester to see how our book has been reacting, and it gives us an opportunity to set some goals and objectives for the upcoming months if we're going to make some changes. I do want to point out too that our athletic director team, including our administrative assistants, are all members of the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association and the NIAAA. So that is our state and national governing body. And so they all have dived into professional development and continue to be at the cutting edge of their profession, because they're all instrumental in helping us with all parts of our initiatives for our district. Just a reminder, if we simplified, what are we trying to accomplish in our athletics and activities programs? We have 3 simple pillars, but none of them are easy. We want to drive student participation. We know that absolutely makes a difference in student success, mental health, physical health. We want to support those who lead our students, whether that be advisors or coaches. And we believe we want to get our students ready for life after high school. And we get to use our passion of athletics and activities to be able to do that. So our annual review process for our code book works this way. We start in January and actually goes till April. Why such a long period of time? Well, again, we need time to evaluate and analyze trends. And so a few of the things that we do is we look at trends, we look at best practices, we look at how our booklet, how our processes as a tool is working for our community. Another piece of that is we wait till the WIAA annual meeting, which is the last week of April. If there's any changes made at a national level, a state level, and then our membership votes on any changes, sometimes that impacts what our book might look like going into the next school year. We utilize the resources of the NIAAA, the NFHS, the WIAA in terms of bylaws and best practices, okay, again, impacting us on a local level. And of course, we work collectively with our greater conferences. We work with the Badger Conference, but our home conference is the Big 8 conferences. So we all work together as we are continually updating best practices for our books. We utilize the cloud of our middle school and high school staffs as well, administrative staffs, that is. But focus areas that look different than they did 5 years ago. We haven't made any changes to them because they are working as we need them to work, but still we want to get ahead of the curve as needed. But we made a strong effort toward due process and making that part of what we do, creating an opportunity for restorative practices for our kiddos. We wanted to make sure we had a robust and very clear communication chain, one for self-advocacy and also for parents to go through a process of communication with coaches and advisors. And then, of course, we wanted to make sure that we incorporated our expectations, not just for athletics, but for clubs and activities as well, since we are really in year 2, particularly at the high school level, of being athletics and activities departments. So trends that we looked at this year, just to make you aware as I button this part up, NIL, name, image, and licensing is definitely a national trend. It's been a state trend for just over 12 months now in the state of Wisconsin, and there's been little change as far as, there's been no change in policy of the state of Wisconsin, but there are more student athletes that are being interested and asking us for information, and so we try to stay ahead of that and provide our folks with the best information possible. Coaching contact, particularly meaning contact of high school coaches outside of the athletic season. Big change last summer, no change this summer, and I don't see that changing for a while, but I'll just tell you one of the concepts is what would it look like if we had coaching contact outside of the season, but during the school year. That hasn't gotten any legs yet, but it keeps showing up at the table. But how might that impact our code? Our co-op sport trends that's happening all over Rock County, Dane County, and quite frankly, all over Wisconsin. How does that impact our code? And of course, we are always trying to stay ahead of our how do we do our best job in supporting our kids and creating guardrails for them when it comes to digital responsibility. So these are things we dive into heavily, and we did some really significant work a few years ago, so there's no changes at that point for that. Our last step after this opportunity today, we will do the processes we've been doing the last 3 years. We have eyes on it from a few other people in this building. Angie Burns does a tremendous job for us is in making sure our book is ready from an ADA compliance standpoint and lands on our website exactly how our folks need to be able to see it and interact with it. And then Alejandro Gavantes Alcarta, she does the translation for us for Spanish speaking. So that's what we've been doing so far. We're in year 3 of that. And again, we try to stay ahead of the curve about what our interface needs to look like on our website. That's where our folks interact. In addition to this, I mean, a book is just words on a piece of paper unless our coaches and our advisors are supporting it, living it, talking about it, teaching it. Starts with our athletic directors all the way through our advisors, and we are continually working on pathways for accountability. And to making this just what we do, a lot of our language. So it's a book that helps us to do what we want to do, which is help our kids get ready for life after high school. So our 2 changes this year really are just date changes. The window for contact for football coaches has changed. Why did it change? Because every 6 years, the start date for football resets. Sometimes it's August 1st, and sometimes the first day of football is August 5th or 6th. And so when it resets, the window for coaches to end their summer contact goes further into July. Right, and then our physical dates, again, just trying to clarify that, making sure we have crystal clear what people need as far as compliance with that. So those were our two changes, otherwise, no changes going into this year, so.
I keep advocating for this from a physical standpoint. I would love to see the district have providers available on site for students or families who maybe don't have ease of access to obtaining those physicals. That's just something I keep talking about. I'd love for that, because I know it is really hard for families to schedule those sports physicals, and providers will try to, but I mean, it gets tricky. Thankfully, I was communicating with my son's doctor for something else, and he's getting an appointment. I said, wait, can we please also schedule a sports physical at the same time? Because you have to really plan ahead for that.
Right. So, and that's also one of the reasons why we have moved our fall athletic code meetings to, like, we're doing it this week. And so trying to give that's one of the number one issues, is getting your place in line as soon as you can to get that. So yes, there's multiple avenues we've explored to address what you're talking about. And, but thank you. I appreciate that suggestion, and that may make sense for us to.
Interestingly, this is just like a side note on a personal point, which you can't do anything about. But my husband's a chiropractor, and in other states, chiropractors are allowed to give those sports physicals, but the state of Wisconsin doesn't allow it. So he used to do that in the state of Illinois, and here they can't, but not from a personal standpoint. But I do wish there were more providers that were allowed that, just from a ease of accessibility standpoint.
Right. The expanding to having physician's assistants being able to provide that service, that's probably been less than a decade now. So perhaps that's the next step. I think the things we're talking about is something we're trying to solve all over the state, so.
Absolutely. Well, thanks. It's always a pleasure for just to see you and talk about sports. And I want to give a shout out to Mitch Trinan at Marshall, because I know they are part-time, but every single time I have a question about something, he is so fast to respond and really, really helpful. So a shout out to all the middle school, I mean, everyone, but I have interacted with Mr. Trinan, and I appreciate his responsiveness.
Yeah, thank you so much. They really have become change agents for athletics and activities in their buildings, so thank you for that recognition.
And thank you for answering my questions via email earlier, so thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
All right, moving on to wait, hold on. I think we actually need to vote. We need to talk about this. We should vote to move this to full board. So I need a motion to move this to full board.
I move to send the Athletic and Activities Code of Conduct book to the full board.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. That motion passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, 1.7, middle school math instructional coach, Dr. Allison DeGraff, and we will also need to vote on this, just to let everyone know.
Right, good afternoon. So you received a memo regarding the addition or recommendation to add 1.5 math instructional coaches at the middle school level. And we would be looking at adding math coaches specifically focused on math coaches that have some experience and expertise at the secondary level as well, but also to help bridge that gap between curriculum standards and classroom practice. And so when we talk about why are we looking at adding this additional staffing at the middle school level, as you know, you're aware of some of our data trends that we've been monitoring closely. So between our iReady data, our forward data, we've noticed that we continue to stay below that state average with our middle school math. We're seeing progress, but we're below that state average. We've also looked at that transition gap. So we are seeing that our students from 5th to 6th grade, we see that dip in that data, and we do see it some across the state, but we tend to have a little bit larger dip than some of the other districts. And then we had our math audit as well. And so we do have a strong curriculum in place, but the audit also indicated that there are some specific components of the curriculum that we maybe need to be a little bit more focused on that would really help enhance student achievement. And so that role of the coach would be different than an interventionist where they're pulling small groups of kids. We really want to look at an instructional coach that would be planning with math teachers to help identify what are those really key high impact math strategies that they would be using in the classroom. The coaches would go in and model math lessons as well and maybe co-teach. They'd also be an expert in that data analysis and identifying certain math skills to focus on and maybe identifying key students that needed more opportunities for reteaching. And also just a person who would bring more resources to our math teachers as well to enhance their math instruction. And so that's kind of a little bit of the why and what that would look like as a math instructional coach. But what would success look like? So we would want to continue to evaluate if we implement these positions at the middle school level to, are we seeing measurable gains in our test scores? Are students increasing in proficiency would be one key indicator. Also, do we continue to see teachers building their confidence and their mathematical practices in the classroom? And then is that sustainable once they've worked with the math coach and continue to implement those effective math practices as well? So that's kind of a brief overview from the memo, and you had a little bit more on the job description as well that you received. And so we would look for PPC to move this to the full board to add those positions into the staffing plan. And then Chris Metamalt would work with our middle school principals to move this forward if it was approved.
Are there any questions on this? Yeah, we already talked about it, so all of my questions were already answered and leading up to, and certainly the materials you provided were very informative, so very exciting. I'm happy to see us moving forward in this direction and looking forward to see the positive impact this could make. So I need a motion to send this on to the full board for approval.
I move the staffing proposal of 1.5 middle school math instructional coach forward to the full board.
Any other questions? All right, we shall vote. All in favor? Aye. That motion passes unanimously. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time. Our next meeting will be the first Monday of June, whatever that is. June 1st. Is it? Wow, okay. June 1st. So we will see you here, not here? Will we be here? Mr. Holzman?
Yes, it will be here.
Oh, all right, exciting, good, we'll still be here. And the planning session for our agenda setting will be next week, Monday, so if there's something that you would like us to chat about, let me know, because some of the things that were on this agenda were things that were brought to me to include. So thank you so much for your suggestions, and I look forward to another meeting. We're adjourned.
Yes, 12 is here.
June 1st.
June 1st.
June 1st.
Oh, I think,
We will
okay,
not be here.
okay. I'd just like to, I was
I was
afraid-
like,
was
I know, I'm like,
I'm not
it's
at the next-
I think they're doing right next door, like a lot of like,
I was going next week.
noise is gonna happen.
The next board meeting. So-
Yeah,
so
next week.
unless, the chair,
But we're gonna store Jim's office
Yes.
down at One Parker Place.
Right?